Let me introduce you to John. There's a drum kit in the corner of John's room that he hasn't touched since March. A book on the nightstand that's been open at page 60 since last summer. Running shoes that are still white. A guitar against the wall. And a language app he hasn't opened since February. He's 25 and he's the kind of person who picks up a new thing every couple of months and falls in love with it. And everyone keeps asking him the same question. His mum asks at Christmas in the nicest possible way. So which one do you actually want to focus on? You're doing too much, John. Jack of all trades, master of none. Pick one. And John doesn't argue with any of it. In fact, he agrees. He knows it's a problem. He just doesn't know which 4 of them he's supposed to give up. So tonight, he does. Tonight, John picks one. And this is where his life splits into 2. Now, stay with this one, because both versions of tonight look identical. Same guy, same room, same choice. And 30 years from now, only one of them still hurts. By the end of this, you'll know which one. One thing I will say, though, you're not the problem. The advice is, watch what happens to those other 4 things. Let's say he picks the guitar. That part's the same in both versions. Same guitar, same Tuesday, same decision. In the first version, John does exactly what he was told. The drum kit goes on Marketplace and sells in 4 days. The book goes in a box in the garage. The running shoes go to a friend who actually runs, and the app gets deleted. And honestly, he feels good, clearer than he's felt in years. Well, he tells himself the thing everybody told him. That wasn't me, that was noise. Now here's the second version, where John picks the guitar too. And the same 4 things leave the room on the same evening. But watch what he does with them. The drum kit goes down to the basement. The book goes on a shelf, still open at page 60. The shoes go in the closet. And the app moves into a folder on the second page of his phone. Same guitar, same Tuesday, same 4 things off the table. And here's the part that matters. The first John is never going to see those 4 things again. The second one knows exactly where they are. One of them said never. The other one said not yet. Now, if that sounds like a small thing to you, like word games, hold on, because the advice John just followed has a problem with it, and it took 30 years of research to find. Here's that advice in its purest form. Someone posted on Reddit asking for help with exactly this. Too many interests and not enough time. And 4 of the 5 top answers all said the same thing. Write down the 5 things you're into. Cross out the bottom 4 and ignore them, because it's all just noise. You've heard a version of that your whole life, and it sounds like discipline, like the grown-up answer. But in 1994, 2 psychologists named Tom Gilovich and Gilovich Medvec went looking for what people actually regret, and they found something nobody expected. In the short term, people regret the things they did, like the job they took or the thing they said at a party. That kind of regret is loud, but it burns out in about a year. When you stretch the timeline out, though, it flips completely. Ask a 70-year-old what they regret, and they barely mention the things they did. It's almost always the things they never started, the instrument they never learned, the country they never moved to, the business that stayed an idea. You already know the feeling. So look at that advice again. It's telling John to throw away the 4 things he'll still be thinking about when he's 70. And this is the part everybody gets wrong about him. It was never that he couldn't commit. He couldn't throw things away, because throwing things away actually hurts. And it turns out he was right to feel that. So watch what the second John does instead. He doesn't throw anything away, he just puts it in a drawer. One version of him used a bin, and the other used a drawer. A bin is forever. A drawer is just not right now. Same evening, same 4 things gone from the room, and yet only one of those 2 men can still change his mind. Now, a drawer only counts if it actually opens, and we'll come back to that. But first, there's a bigger question that nobody in John's life ever thought to ask. Why the guitar? They all told him to pick something, and he picked. But not one of them asked whether the thing he picked was even the right one. And it turns out somebody actually measured what happens to the people who choose too early. Here's how picking actually works. In England, you basically choose your subject before you even finish school. And then you spend years going deep on that one thing at university. In Scotland, they do the opposite. You spend the first couple of years trying lots of subjects, and you only commit later on. An economist named Ofer Malamud looked at both systems to see who ended up better off. And if picking early were really the answer, the English students would have won easily, right? because they got a 2-year head start on everyone. They didn't. In fact, Malamud found quite the opposite. People who picked early switched careers far more often later in life because they went deep on something and then realized years in that it was the wrong thing. The Scots picked later and had less of a head start, but they picked better and they stayed. His conclusion was simple. The cost of choosing the wrong thing is far higher than the cost of choosing a little late. So come back to John and his guitar. He's 25 and he has no real idea of whether the guitar is the one. And that's not a flaw in John, that's just what being 25 is. Which is exactly why he needs those other 4 things to still be there when he figures it out. Now that drawer only matters if John ever actually opens it. If he never goes down to the basement, that drum kit might as well have gone on Marketplace with the first guys. And going back is harder than it sounds. There's a whole thread online of people who dropped a hobby years ago and still can't make themselves pick it back up. One guy said he can't face relearning golf every single spring, so he just doesn't play at all, and he sits there watching the summer go past the window. But here's what actually happens. There's a man who played piano as a kid, then life got in the way, and he didn't touch it for 8 years. 8 years. And then one afternoon he sat back down at a piano and it was all still there. His hands knew where to go. 8 years in a drawer, and it didn't die. Now compare that to the first John, whose drum kit was sold in 4 days. He doesn't get that afternoon. It's in a stranger's living room now, and it's never coming back. But there's still one problem, and it's the one that actually keeps people up at night. Even if the drawer works, when is John ever going to open it? He's got a job. He's got people who want to see him. He's got a gym membership he barely uses. There is never going to be a free Tuesday. So let's just do the maths, because nobody ever does. John is 25. Say he lives to 80. That's 55 years in front of him. And say it takes about 5 years to get genuinely good at something. Really good, not weekend good. That's 11. 11. John has 5 interests and room for 11. He was never being asked to throw 4 things away. He was being asked which one comes first. So let's go back to those 2 Johns one last time. 30 years have passed, and both of them are good at guitar. 30 years is a long time, and you get good at almost anything in 30 years, whichever version you're living in. So that part's a draw. Here's the part that isn't. One of them has a guitar, and 4 things he never went back to. The other one has a guitar. He also got the drums back at 41. He ran his first marathon at 52, and he finally finished that book. Not all at once, one at a time, in order, whenever there was room. And those 30 years didn't feel the same either. One of them spent them with a quiet voice in the back of his head saying, "You gave that up." The other one spent them hearing something completely different. That's still coming. That second John is the one who's still okay. And he wasn't smarter, and he wasn't luckier, and he didn't have more time. They had exactly the same amount. He just never threw anything away. So look, what I've been trying to tell you for the last 8.5 minutes is this. You've got 15 things you're interested in, and you've been told your whole life that that's your problem. It isn't. You're the kind of person who keeps finding new things to love. And stretched over 50 years, that's a life almost nobody gets to have. You're not late for a single one of them. You're early. None of it is gone. It's just sitting in a drawer, waiting for its turn. And you've got so much more time than they ever told you.